All right, let's go. Hey, welcome everyone to another episode of Clarity Digital Podcast. I'm excited to be back, and this time with my co-host Delilah Adrian. And our guest is a friend, mentor, and a really awesome person, Mr. Steve Wiideman, an SEO veteran. So today we're going to be talking about SEO, state of SEO in 2026. In the post AI world. So that's what we're going to be talking about. But before we do that, I'd like each individual to introduce themselves, starting with our guest, Steve. Steve, please go ahead and give us a little bit of background as long as you like.
What's up, Al? Hey there, Delilah. So I've been in search, like you've never heard that one, right? I've been in search like 30 years now, and it's been my career, my life path, my passion, my love, my place to write and document and study and experiment and test and have a lot of fun. I have a degree in e-business management. I have time in my career history working for IBM Global Services, Disney Parks and Resorts Online, and I have worked as the agency's agency for 11 different agencies around the country on enterprise accounts where they feel a little overwhelmed and they want to bring in some senior expertise. So a quick Google of my name will probably pop up a lot of About Us pages where I'm a fractional search engine optimization director, manager, advisor, etc. I have a textbook that we just updated to add in content around the AI era. And I just finished writing a book for the shelves specifically on scaling multi-location and franchise SEO and the governance challenges that we work through with running 4,000 locations and having 3 people behind the helm dealing with 4,000 location managers wondering what the heck is going on. Also, I'm an adjunct professor. I've taught at Fullerton College, at Cal State Fullerton, and at UC San Diego, where I currently teach AI-driven SEO and digital marketing and an asynchronous course if you're interested in really learning about some modern search today. I'm having a really good time teaching this 9-week course. So if you want to jump in and enjoy a little bit of the nuances of AI and how it affects our visibility in an omni-channel search ecosystem, this course is for you. And Al, thank you again for having me in. I'm totally excited to chat and share everything I possibly can.
Awesome. That was amazing. So Steve is both an SEO veteran and a real life veteran, right? Right,
Sure.
Steve?
I was
Awesome.
a M3 Bradley driver back in the 90s. Yes, that's correct.
Cool. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Delilah, your turn.
My turn. Yeah, hey there. I'm Delilah. I am a digital marketing strategist. I've been in the agency space for about 10 plus years, and I got tired of the corporate bloat that goes along with it and decided to branch out on my own. So I just work as an extension of marketing teams and extension of businesses that need to leverage, marketing experience to help grow their business. And working here with Al as a growth strategist at Clarity Digital, which is fantastic and really fun. I've known Al for a couple years now, and he's been my go-to for SEO. So I'm really excited about this conversation, Steve. I'm really excited for you to be here. It's a bit of a hot topic, this SEO evolution that's going
Yeah,
on right now. So really looking forward to diving in.
it's exciting for sure. I don't know how
All
we
right.
haven't crossed paths in the past though, all these different digital marketing events we all go to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And you've been busy too. So,
Yeah,
all right, cool.
that's
Well,
right.
everybody knows me, so I don't need to introduce myself. So, Al Sefati, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I'm trying to keep up. So that's why we are having these conversations with thought leaders like Steve. So, Steve, let's get to it. State of SEO in this AI, it keeps changing. Google, for a little while, I thought Google was going to fall behind, and it seems like Google still owns the market. What are your thoughts on the whole thing at a high level?
Sure. Oh, at a high level, principles are unbreakable, right? At a high level, we still need to create great content. How we articulate that content and how we refine that content is always going to evolve, but making sure that when somebody is searching for us, that there's adequate content for not just Google to find now, but users across multi channels such as social and forums and discussion boards and video search and image search. We need to be omnipresent and available there. But the principle of relevancy and making sure that we're relevant to the topics and entities that we want to be semantic to is still part of our holistic strategy. Visibility, it's still important to get links to our site because web crawlers still use links to crawl and pass voting power to pages from one page to another. A high quality page will pass a high quality vote to another page and qualify that page to rank in a traditional search engine, which will then get retrieved and extracted from the LLMs through its retrieval augmented generation. That whole, searching the web prompt that you'll see after you punch in a prompt within an LLM. So still important, but now in terms of modernization, what else are we doing with our off-page visibility? Now it's just making sure that for everything that we do on our website and that we've had in our content roadmap, that we replicate that across all the places that people are searching using phrases, and we'll call them semantic triples, right? Our whole who we are and what we do and so forth. Having that omnipresent across those different destinations not only enables us to be found in those destinations, but serve as citations for when those LLMs, want to decide on what to display from that RAG search that they did. So now it's not just about links, it's also about citations. And just like traditional search engine optimization, it's a garden. You've got to pour water and sunlight on it. You can't just say, yeah, Clarity Digital is a Orange County based digital marketing agency or serves local clients and then walk away because that seed will die. You've got to continuously pour water and sunlight through press, through campaigns that you run, through contributed content, through podcasts and webinars like this, through YouTube shorts, as Gary V, really emphasized a few weeks back on how important that is. The third principle is making sure that we're the one that gets selected in the search results. So, of course, our relevancy, our visibility or popularity, and then us being selected, those user signals that Google had to admit to using in 2023, the court case PDFs or the PowerPoint slides were released, and they said, yes, we absolutely use what behaviors users have when they're interacting with our listings, which is why the rich results have always been so important in getting star snippets. And it's why it's so important to have strong titles and meta descriptions and not just stuff them with keywords or boringly just put what it is we have in our brand name. We want to try to be convincing and helpful and detailed, but we also need to keep them on our website. So this is where speed and technical SEO is still important. A lot of folks will be like, well, now with LLMs and using passages and phrases from our page and not really caring about driving traffic to our website, they don't care about tech. Well, traditional search engines do, and RAG still relies on traditional search engines. So we do need to make sure from a technical standpoint that users have a great experience and stay on our webpage and not come back to the SERP because of too much friction or confusion or something being broken or slow or accessibility or security or privacy, that they decide, hey, this is the best, most helpful page. I'm going to stay here and not go back to Google and signal that this wasn't a helpful page and eventually demote that listing. So those three principles are undying. They're relevancy, popularity, and user behavior signals, but now they get to be amplified across multiple channels that we just talked about. So I think in terms of the state of SEO, I feel like we've gone to being myopic on Google and Google web listings to now thinking about doing everything that we've been doing from an on and off page standpoint for traditional SEO natively across all of the places that people are searching for us. And we're all navigating through how we're going to measure that because the teams are going to be fighting each other. The social teams are going to say, no, that was my attribution. The paid social team, the organic social team will all be fighting over it. The folks that have been working on Reddit with us when we start injecting in SEO, is going to be a balance of who gets credit. Is it the SEO person for being found and putting those semantic triples out there? Or is it the Reddit person who's been listening and responding and being engaged? I know you're thinking Reddit person. Yeah, that's a real role now. And a lot of businesses haven't figured that out yet. The AEO point of working with the social teams, the Reddit teams, and the YouTube teams to get that list of triples into all of those different content initiatives is a dedicated role itself. It's the AEO role, right? You've got your traditional SEO role who's working on page content and measurement and retaining as much of the traffic as we can. And now we've got the off-page AEO role, whose job is to work with the various team members to make sure that everything that we're doing on the website is also being done off the site. So I think there's that part of the evolution. Now it's just figuring out what's our prompt library look like, where we want to start. What are those 100 to 125 prompts that we know are really important to us to start with? What are we going to do with our various teams to make sure that the statements that address those prompts are clear and across the web? And then how are we going to measure it? And I think that's the evolution. That's kind of where we are right now, and probably why a lot of our peers are bowing out. They're like, this is just too much. I just want to do Google. Let me just do a page, optimize it with keywords, do some internal links, maybe earn a link from, a couple other websites, rank number 1 in Google and be gone. Well, number 1 in Google now is like number 6 in Google. Between the AI overviews and the way the ad formats are, and now the map ads,
Yeah.
you're lucky if you. And so we rank number 1 for all of our clients in organic web search, but it doesn't mean what it meant 5 years ago. It's, in fact, the traffic's diminished, even though we're number 1 across the board, simply because the landscape's changed so much. And geez, as you know, the Google interface is going to be completely different at any moment now. They announced it at I/O. At any second, Google web search as we know it is gone. The blue links, black text, heck, even the keywords that we used to see in the performance tab in Search Console could go away. And we're going to be focused on conversational search. We're going to be focused on agentic and making sure that not only are we discoverable, but users can interact with our listings. So yeah, there's a lot of change that's happening, but I would say there's no need for anxiety around the traditional side of search. Even though those clicks are diminishing, it's still fundamental, and it still helps power in part the LLM's decision of who to recommend. So you're already on the right track if you're doing good traditional. Now it's just let's bring in some people to help so you don't feel overwhelmed. Let's assign them to those different new roles, the Reddit role and of course the AEO role, and then let's just keep the ball moving. So anyway, that's the way I see it anyway. I'd love to hear what you think, Delilah.
I can see why you're an educator. You went so fully in depth there, and it was so much really great information.
When's
And
this guy gonna shut up?
a couple of questions pop up for me. One is, how angry do you get when people say SEO is dead? Because it very much is alive, isn't it?
I love when they say it's dead. It usually means one less competitor I have to worry about. Right?
Oh,
Yeah, I have the same thinking. Yeah.
And then
I'm like, why are people going to stop searching?
right, yeah,
Yeah.
no, serious. It's a pet peeve of mine as well. And then the other part is really unique point about Reddit. So we have, quite a few businesses that come and approach us, here at Clarity Digital too, and they're like, I want to get on Reddit, and understanding that requires almost a whole team approach and a whole individual like strategy that's
Literally.
specific to the organization. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on how businesses should be approaching Reddit.
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer when we look at the data. Whether you're using SEMrush Enterprise AEO and looking at aggregate citation sources, or you're in Visto and goofing around with it, or maybe even Nightwatch or Profound, or any of these enterprise tools that are really paying attention to prompts and LLM recommendations. I think in all of those examples, you're going to find some percentage, and they're varied based on the type of search and the type of industry. For lawyers, you might not see as much Reddits. Instead, you might see more Avos and Q&As and Avos and Justias and so forth.
Yeah.
Lawyers have to be
Showing up.
careful.
Yep. But Reddit, I mean, if you do your research and you determine that Reddit is for sure showing up as a reasonable enough citation source for the topics, both upper and lower funnel topics that are important to you, then yeah, it's time to dedicate some resources to listening and responding and interacting. And more importantly, it's time to start getting our customers to know how important it is for them to be sharing their stories and their experiences on Reddit. So step 1, right? Own your subreddit. That's the easiest thing to do because you own it, you moderate it, and you can publish basically whatever content you want to. Obviously, I would keep some ethics in keeping it helpful and actually relevant and not SEO spammy. But step 2 is now let's start listening. Let's listen to what people are saying on Reddit, and whether we're using Claude to to go out there and look for updates, or Google alerts. If we're doing it that way with a site operator, site colon space brand name in quotes, so that we know the moment somebody mentions us and that Reddit page gets indexed, which is usually pretty quick, we can respond right away and have a voice, maybe even drop in some of those phrases and triples that we talked about to help our AEO visibility. But to me, it does warrant, if you do find yourself in a place where citations include Reddit, that it's time to bring somebody in. And maybe it's just going to Handshake and grabbing an intern or two to support your digital marketing efforts and saying, hey, we're going to teach you how we do SEO over here. Part of your job will be to listen and do some of the Reddit stuff. It's not your 100% responsibility. We're still accountable and helping guide the strategy and what we're doing. You're just an extra set of hands and learning, right? Because that's how internships work. But yeah, I think it's that time. As much as we hate it, and as much as we hate the mods, and as much as the AI hates the AI spam that's happening, Reddit is to my understanding, a partner with contracts with Google, and they're going to continue showing up and being a valid, user-generated content source for sentiment, for phrases, for conversational queries. It's a gold mine for search engines, so it's not going to go anywhere. And if you haven't already found somebody who can at least spend 30 minutes a day or even 15 minutes a day paying attention to Reddit, you're probably going to be losing out on some of the real estate in a web search. You're going to be losing out on the AEO side, and you're going to be losing out on, making sure that you're, a prominent answer in LLMs.
Cool. I have a follow-up question on Reddit. We are dealing with a client right now that they're in the insurance space, and that space is highly monitored. Their account, we didn't do anything wrong, and that account went suspended, and we've appealed it and then an appeal. There are some industries that Reddit doesn't allow you to participate. And do you have any experience with that?
Of course.
What? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a consumer-driven and UGC-driven ecosystem. It's what they wanted it to be. They don't want brands out there promoting themselves. You can
Yeah.
advertise there all day, and
You
you
can
should
advertise
be.
it, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
you should be testing and making sure that you're showing up, where you can using the advertising platform 100%. But for the organic piece, one of the fun things that we presented to our restaurant chains was this AI picture of a barista, and she had a T-shirt that said something like ABC Coffee
Mhm.
offers, and then it's like a line in Buena Park, right? And
Mhm.
then
You said
underneath it,
coffee.
there's
I had to drink coffee. Sorry.
and there's three logos underneath it, right? And the three
Huh.
logos are Yelp, Reddit, and TripAdvisor, not
Yeah,
Google.
TripAdvisor. Yeah,
Yeah,
not Google.
because
Mhm.
ChatGPT isn't using Google reviews,
Mhm.
right? They don't have that relationship. If they're doing anything, they're scraping and probably getting in trouble for it. But we never see, Google Maps as a citation source. We see Reddit,
Right.
we see Yelp, and we see TripAdvisor. So the consumer gets to the counter and they're getting their coffee and they're getting the change and looking at this T-shirt and they're like, okay, ABC Coffee. This. Oh, you want me to talk about you and say this on these sites? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great if we did a great job. That's where people are talking about us, and people aren't having conversations on Google Maps. They're just dropping reviews. We want our customers having conversations about us. So if you can talk about us anywhere on these, that'd be amazing. We'd really appreciate you. But don't incentivize, don't bribe, don't get yourself sued by Yelp. But give subtle hints. Maybe change the wallpaper on the wall so that it has examples of those semantic triples next to some of the logos to show them exactly what would really help the business. They'll figure it out. Humans are smart, right? They're going to look and go, oh, I see what you're doing, right? And so if you can help train and educate your customers, they're going to go out there and start doing that stuff. And in the beginning, it'll be slow as they pick it up. Then they're going to have conversations with each other, talking about what they're doing and why they're doing it. And they're going to be like, I'm so going to review you on Reddit, right? And everyone's going to be like, what just happened? Oh yeah, we've been watching and having conversations about all the, the ways that you've been trying to edge what's going on. We figured it out. We're totally going to drop a review for you on Reddit.
Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So I think that's where the money is going to be is really
Yeah.
is investing in the education to train our customers on how to help us. And we tried, if you remember we did this whole campaign of Vroom, right? It was voice readiness, mobile markup
Yeah.
measurement, right?
Back in yeah.
And part of that was voice search, and we were setting up the Google Action Console to be talked to whichever brand it is, and allow them to get the information they need to book appointments, to make a phone call, to do all that through voice search through the Google Home. And it was brilliant and it was great. But the problem was the developers who were building all this stuff out couldn't educate the marketers on the technology and how it worked enough to get the marketers to educate the consumers on how to use it. So you'd
Yeah.
never hear someone like, oh, ask your Google Home, hey, Google, do such and such and such. I think my Google's going to go off. But so that was the break, because we had an opportunity to really address voice. but the people who are developing it and using the action console and setting up all the invocations and responses and everything just couldn't teach the marketing people in a way that would help them teach their consumers how to use the technology. So Google's like, well, forget it. We're just going to use AI. And now everybody's going to have an AI assistant, and the AI assistant's going to do the search. They're going to do the actions. You're not going to be talking to consumers anymore. You're going to be talking to their AI. Right. So it's kind of a different viewpoint, a bit different way of kind of seeing the world in terms of how we interact with search. No one's going to stop searching. It's just not going to
Yeah.
be the human that's performing the search now. It's going to be the AI.
So in a nutshell, go ahead, Delilah. You can.
No,
No.
my mind is still on like community and word of mouth and
Uh-huh.
and reviews. So like,
Yep.
well, we even like I like to evaluate different tools, right?
Mhm.
So are there any social listening tools that you
Sure.
typically go to, or like any kind of favorite like social listening tools that you think businesses should look into if they're not already utilizing that
Sure.
technology?
You know, for some reason, I've never really been a Hootsuite guy, and I
Yeah.
know they
Me
were
too.
the industry standard forever and ever and ever, and everyone loved them. And I chose the Sprout Social route, because I
Okay.
just really enjoyed them, and I like that they were forward thinking and a little bit more on the SEO and sentiment and analysis side. And I don't know, but I know a lot of my peers are still just addicted to Hootsuite. but if I had to choose, I would say Sprout Social is probably one of the better ones. The older ones, the last gen, I don't hear about anymore. I don't hear Radiant 6 or any of those other,
Yeah.
monstrous enterprise platforms being used as much. I imagine Adobe has something, but you remember our competency, our strengths lie in multi-location search engine optimization, and social is a different medium, usually ran by a different team that can be influenced and be involved in conversations to support search, but in
Hmm.
general, it's a different personality, it's a different character, it's a different mindset. Search is a marathon, and social is a sprint. You can't plan out a TikTok video for 4 months from now. You've got to look at what's happening this morning,
Yeah.
Oh
and
yeah.
throw your stuff into the rapids, right? So it's a little bit of a different ecosystem. But
But you
yeah,
So
said
if
let's.
I had to choose one,
tagline.
I would say Sprout Social.
But you
Yeah.
said
How do you
tagline.
how do you close a gap between SEO and social, because it's becoming ever
Uh,
more important for that to happen, right? As you
sure.
mentioned earlier, Reddit and social media and making a lot of noise across different channels. And what I've noticed working with our
Mhm.
clients and even internally, I'm always advocate of, maybe it's my ADHD, I'm always advocate of SEO person needs to have his or her hand in everything. But people tend to be pushed, in the comfort zones, or the pushback or so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Like the other day for a client, I made an comment about a YouTube video. I'm like, this is like a 5 minute long YouTube video, and
Mhm.
there's music this whole time. It's very distracting. Can we just like not do that? Like, you're an SEO guy. What do you know about YouTube? Right? So how do you close a gap between an SEO, traditional SEO expert, with all
Sure.
these other channels? Do we take a step back and become more of a consultant to the other? Like, how does that work? Like, how
I
do
think
you how do
we've
you how do you do
always
that?
we've always been a consultant to we even when we're agency, we're still a consultant giving guidance and
Yeah.
recommendations and strategies. My approach has always been tests. Bring in experts. Like I'm meeting next week. I'm meeting up with an old friend, Mark Robertson, who
Hmm.
for a while, if you search for video SEO expert, was like the guy.
Yeah, Mark. Yeah.
He's amazing. And
Yeah.
so when needed, you bring in a voice of somebody who's documented and published in the industry, who you trust will have your back. If you can't convince them that you've got enough
Good point.
experience to
Hmm.
to guide them in whatever search channel in social or what have you that
Yeah.
they happen to be using. The other approach is the idea of test. So I never say we should do this. It's always like, hey, we were looking at the competitive landscape. We did some research. We like some of the stuff that you're working on. We'd like to propose a test of this format and this style of things. Would you be open to running that test and seeing how it does? So, and most of the time, as you know, because we know the industry and we've been in it, our test always works. And we're like, that's a surprise. I was actually surprised that works. That way you don't sound like you're See, I told you so, right? Instead, you're like, oh wow, that was amazing. You guys did a great job of making this happen. I never could have done it like this. And who did this? Wow, you're incredible. Could we test another one? This is fantastic. In fact, let's test two more and see what happens. Hey, you know what? I just did a forecast on the four that we just ran over the last couple months, and it turns out we can tenfold visibility if you keep the pace on doing this. And I have a couple other suggestions based on what I saw work. And so you're basically guiding the narrative of how we introduce things without force feeding it, without sounding like I'm better than you or know more than you, and just being curious. I think that's the trick, right? In any fun storytelling movie, there's this level of curiosity that brings everything to life. It's the curiosity that convinces people, that engages people. As kids, we wouldn't do anything fun if it wasn't curiosity. I wonder what would happen if we walked down the railroad tracks for 4 miles. I wonder what's down there, right? I wonder what would happen if we built this bike ramp like 6 feet high instead. It's curiosity that drives action. So if we can invoke curiosity in our clients and warrant tests to do some of the things that in the back of our mind we know are going to work, and make it their idea and give them the credit when it's done, you're going to see amazing success with your client. But there's no place for ego. There's no place for I'm better than thou because I have more experience. You've got to really take this approach of making it a partnership, and making them feel like this is their doing. They hired you. That was their idea. You got them curious, right? That was their idea. They got the results because they did the work. That was their idea. So again, you're just there like a muse more than anything else, I suppose.
Yeah, like
What
you
do you
said
think?
something really right. Take your ego out
Yeah.
because that gets in the way sometimes, right?
Uh-huh.
And I just that's something I've personally been working on. I'm like, I've done this for 20 years. Damn it, listen to me.
Mhm. That never works. Yeah.
While we are on that testing topic, something that is really important for us to see if a test worked or not is we need to have finite measurable KPIs. AI is changing all that. In the past, it was ranking, leads to traffic, leads to conversion or transaction. But now that whole thing is changing. People are researching ChatGPT, but they don't necessarily click on anything. I do it all the time. In the mornings when it's cooler, when I go for a walk, I'm talking to ChatGPT or Perplexity. So so I'm not necessarily clicking on anything. So how do so let's say you're doing all this good stuff to be more visible in LLM
Mhm.
on the LLMs, but you're not getting the traffic,
I
right?
can share how we're doing it, but I'd love to hear Delilah's insights.
But I'm listening and learning to all of this along the way. No, I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Sure.
We
Well, the,
both are,
the
yeah.
starting point that we do, of course, is the referral traffic. You can create a filter in GA4
Mhm.
within the Explorer, and you can isolate traffic that comes from any of the LLMs. That's easy to do. Unfortunately, for high intent sites like restaurant chains and so forth, it accounts for less than 1% of the traffic. For service industries and attorneys and so forth, where we're doing a lot more upper funnel content, that might be a little bit more. We might see as much as 4% of our traffic coming from LLMs, but compared to Google and Bing and DuckDuckGo and YouTube, it's minuscule still. But I'm sure at some point, we're really going to feel the weight. And to eliminate, 4% of our traffic simply because it's only 4%, to me, that's ignorant, because that number could change at any moment. And if you're
Yeah.
not prepared for it, the traffic could flip overnight, and that 4% could go to 40%. Then what are you going to do? But if you've prepared for it, you're going to see some massive wins from that change because you've been working and nurturing it. The other ways that we can start accounting for some of the visibility is increases in brand search. I noticed that direct and brand search tend to go up when we focus on AEO
Yep.
because they remember us and they go back and they search for us.
Yes.
We also, the simplest thing you've heard, a ton of our peers, well, Reynolds and other folks talk about every forum having a drop down box that said, where did you find us? Right.
Yeah.
And so you ask them, did you find me through ChatGPT, through Google, through Facebook, or something else? And if they put something else, just put a little empty field there and they can punch in whatever it was. That way you can start to better understand, exactly where a user might have come from before they went to your website or searched for you through organic. It's going to be increasingly different as we get really into a non or zero click world. We're not we're not a hybrid of marketing advertising anymore. If we advertise for truck accident or market for truck accident lawyer, and somebody goes to Google or Bing or what have you, and goes to our site, clicks through and becomes a lead, that's almost like an advertising kind of model that we've created, or advertising medium that we've created. Even though it was SEO that drove us to the top, it was an intentional query that resulted in a customer. Unfortunately, with not getting the traffic we're going to be getting, and interactions and visibility being natively within the LLMs and other places that people are searching from, we're not going to be able to measure that. So we've shifted more toward being direct marketing, not direct, but directly marketing, as opposed to being a hybrid of marketing advertising. So there may be a point, as the clicks continue to go away, where we tell our clients, hey, this is strictly a marketing initiative that shouldn't be directly driven towards sales. Right. And it will have an indirect effect on sales, just like billboards and TV and radio do. And your visibility in these LLMs, and making sure that you're there and you're prominent across the web and findable and discoverable across the web, is still going to be important and play into future sales. But I'm taking conversions and revenue off my data studio slides, and we're going to focus instead on mentions and visibility and frequency and citations. And we're gonna use different metrics to understand how we're growing those things that are indicators to our visibility, that will later transcend into an ad click or something when we remarket to them, or they interact with us, again through an LLM. So it's shifting, and we have to educate our clients about that shift, which is going to be hard to do because they want to calculate their ROI. But at some point, unfortunately, there's going to be limited data. So we can trend it. We can trend how many people found us or purchased a product through instant checkout on ChatGPT. Right? We can for sure trend that. How many people booked an appointment from ChatGPT? We can trend that. If how many people still visit our website, we can trend that for now. But at some point, no one's going to visit your website unless, of course, some reason the LLM can't pull up the images that they want to show users when they find products on your site. But at some point, I don't think visitors are going to be going to websites anymore. I feel like they're going to get what they need directly from the AI and Amazon. I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon did hey, we're now Amazon AI, right? You just go search for what you want using your voice AI, and we'll pull up products and so forth. And you can view and use our voice utility to continue shopping and looking for what you're looking for without actually touching your phone anymore. So I do feel like clicks are kind of a thing of the past. I think Rand and Amanda over there at SparkToro called their podcast Zero Click Marketing or something,
Yeah.
and prep for kind of what's coming. I think Rand's always done a really good job of predicting the future, and we can see it in the data. So yeah, that's right now we still have a way to track, and we can trend things like referral traffic from LLMs, and we can trend how many people are selecting the "I found you on ChatGPT" option in your forms. And we can do some other things, but I would start setting the expectation that SEO is now a very critical marketing initiative, a marketing medium. It's not going to immediately drive sales the way it did 10 years ago.
Cool. You
So,
brought up, yeah, go ahead, Delilah, because I wanted to
well,
defer to
yeah,
you.
no, I know we're
It's
trying
always
to.
the quiet ones, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
My my mind is just like, it just does something a little crazy to my brain as an elder millennial growing up with like, the floppy disk computer and like these websites. And then they went from being very boring and very now they're like super dynamic and interesting. And then now people aren't even going to look at them. Like,
mhm.
crazy is that?
Yeah, it's a strange era, but it's exciting, and it means more opportunities for us. If we can get those
Yeah.
team members, and get them just completely specialized in social search,
Yeah.
completely specialized in Reddit discovery and visibility, just completely specialized in YouTube short, strategy and implementation. If we can get those resources and just have them live and breathe and study and analyze and test, and in a year or two from now, we're going to be all over the place, everywhere people find us. And as long as we've got the budget to continue to do paid advertising, and we can remarket to all those folks across all those channels, we're going to have all the real estate, in an organic search, from paid ads to the organic result. And we're going to have prominence everywhere so that people will remember us and think of us
Yeah.
and always be top of mind when they are at that point where they're ready to make a decision or take an action. So I think it's an exciting time, but it's going to be an expensive learning curve for a lot
Yeah.
of businesses until we dial it in. And then as we dial it in using all these amazing AI tools like Claude, the costs will start to go down again. But first, we
Yeah.
need to figure it out as humans and then teach the AI what's working so they can do a lot of the grunt work for us.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to kind of bring up is that, like, when you said it's going to be expensive for businesses, it's also
Hmm.
going to be a little bit stressful for marketers because we have to be educating our clients and
Yeah.
bosses and so on and so forth. And like, I'm dealing with someone, a CMO, who according to himself, he's a semi-retired CMO. So
Uh-huh.
still, I'm on a hook on delivering traffic and leads from organic. And obviously, I've emailed. Everybody works remote these days. You don't meet people in person as much anymore. So
Sure.
I've emailed links, articles, long elaborative emails, data, and
Hmm.
oh yeah, I agree. And then they kind of default back to old habits. So we're gonna have to go through that transition. In my opinion, that we have to be just more patient, like you said earlier. Put the ego out. Things are gonna be a little bit like that
Right.
for a while. Another thing I
Oh my
have no.
God, Al, I don't want to interrupt, but you just reminded me that that the majority of leads that we're getting these days, most of them either want AEO or they want their traffic back. I want my organic traffic back. It was
And
so
I
great in
told them you're not gonna get it
2022.
back.
Yeah, it's like it's
Yeah,
gone, man. AI
yeah.
overviews, AI
I
mode, it's
I
gone.
told my client, you're still ranking number one for the terms. You're just not
Yeah.
getting as much traffic. It's just you just got to change. It's like what do we replace it with? And basically, the point I was trying to make is something I learned in experience a long time ago, even with the
Uh-huh.
classic SEO, is that
Yeah.
when your organic improves, your ads convert better.
Oh yeah.
So
Mhm.
so like I learned that over 15 years ago when I worked for Experian, is that if you are
Mhm.
number one in or top three for the term free credit report, our PPC ads would convert better. But
Mhm.
Experian is a big company. They have a lot of money. So
Sure.
our goal was to be prominent to number one and number two in Google because we couldn't beat that .gov website, the free credit report .gov or something,
Yeah.
that would occupy more of the real estate, so there would be more experience on the homepage. And the same concept I think applies here is that if you're visible everywhere in ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, so on and so
Mhm.
forth, Gemini, YouTube is very powerful videos. Then you next time they see your ads, that the trust factor is there. They're very, you're warmer, and
Yeah.
your conversion rate on Google Ads go, and you're targeting to go higher. And I'm seeing this happening for a couple of our clients, but it's still, I find it to be quite challenging to connect to
Yeah.
dots to tell them, hey, we are doing better because our AEO is getting better. So
Sure.
that's something that I'm still trying to figure out. And another thing that Delilah could probably speak more about this, because she comes from a lot of B2B background and she's busy on the sales side too, is that coordination between sales team and marketing teams. They
Yeah.
want leads, they want to sell. Delilah, feel free to chime in here, please. Like, it's like, like you said earlier, Steve, this is a branding and marketing initiative.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily going to bring you more money, but Delilah, if you want to add it into that, and see what Steve has to think about, how do we can bridge the gap between sales and marketing.
Yeah, I literally had talked about this so many times until, like, it just seemed like it just wasn't going anywhere. Because like, marketing and sales always has this issue with each other. Marketing is bringing in, a massive amount of leads, right? And then the sales say that the leads are no good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that
you definitely have to hone in on what you do and why you do it better. And we've seen brands that will put out how-to guides and they'll attract thousands of visits to the site and sometimes invalid leads from places that they don't have locations in. So
Yeah,
you definitely need to make sure from a topic standpoint that you stay on point and don't go too broad. You definitely want to focus on that lower funnel intent content first,
yeah,
as best you can, and then, silo around those to whether you're using peripheral content or just getting really creative and building out more sales underneath that pillar. That's still, a traditional SEO strategy that helps support AEO because each of that peripheral pages that solve questions and problems and and so forth will be what you see in an LLM for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that we don't have like a lot of time left. We are having a really great conversation, but I do want to hit on something because I've seen it on LinkedIn a lot recently, this conversation about these job posts looking for marketers that can do
Mhm.
everything under the sun.
Yeah.
And I think that ties into what you've hit on a couple times about how important it is to have segmentation in your marketing teams to
Yep.
be able to execute at the level that needs to be executed at in order for deliverability to happen and in order for
Mhm.
businesses to see profits and revenue coming in.
Yeah.
They're so that we're in an era where they just feel like, one marketing hire can do demand gen, social,
Maybe 15
email.
years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd love for you to have a moment on that because it's
Yeah,
very relevant today. A lot of people are very frustrated about the expectations of
sure.
marketers.
So a lot of us veteran digital marketers who've been in the industry since HTML switched from table-based design to style sheet-based design, us
Mhm.
older guys that had to learn tech first and memorize HTML and CSS and
Yeah.
understand some degree of JavaScript. We grew up being a multi personality person who was an extroverted introvert and an introverted extrovert. We had to know and be proficient with technical SEO. We had to also be and know enough about psychology to differentiate sales versus marketing content, upper versus lower funnel, a top of funnel versus bottom of funnel. We had to understand user intent, sales principles such as trust, reciprocity, urgency, scarcity. We also had to be extroverted enough to do outreach, to earn links to our website. So here we're this introverted technical person who also has to be an extroverted marketing person to pick up the phone and contact people that we hope will eventually lead us to us earning some links. And we also had to be an analyst. We had to take all
Yeah.
that work that we did and measure it through tools like Google Analytics and Search Console and all that Adobe Analytics and so forth. So we had to be a multifaceted digital marketer, and it's why our value was so high. It was why people would pay $375 an hour to speak with us because we understood each aspect. But in today's specialized world, finding somebody who's engineer savvy around how to develop software and code things while also still understanding content and content intent and still understanding, the requirements for being extroverted and still building relationships that result in the brand getting visibility off the website outside of owned assets like social. It's not the same world, and you don't have the same personalities. That 2% is like 1% now. And anyone who says they are likely using Chat GPT to give you the answer that you want.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
a big
I
problem
agree.
right now.
I think
Mhm.
businesses need to understand that. And I think what needs to get disseminated is an org chart that shows a business exactly what roles, what education and what skills go into the role that they're thinking about hiring so that they know it's not realistic. Right? They can see this and go, this can't be one person. There's no one that went to school for computer science and then went back and got a master's degree in communications and then went back and got a school and a degree in web analytics and so forth. It's just there's like 4 degrees. There's no way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I think an org chart would be really helpful to show businesses exactly what an organization should look like and why one person isn't going to cut it for you. That one person might help do a really good job in one area, and you'll think everything is great, even if the other areas are weak, because you're still getting more than what you were before you had that person. But expecting that person to be able to be 8 people is unrealistic, and it's not something that you can do, and it's unfortunate. But if you want to stay in business, your marketing is more than the 15% budget that you used to have. It's probably got to be at least 25 to 30% in many cases, which is tough, which hurts the bottom line a little bit. But if you want to compete in the competitive landscape of search with the millions of businesses that are all using AI now to amplify their visibility,
Mhm.
you gotta realize, yeah, profit margin's gonna go down a bit, and that's why the economic system's a little bit in a chaos and in a fog, and why there's so much uncertainty and anxiety is because all this new stuff costs a lot of money, but it's critical. Without it, you fall to the wayside. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, I remember early on a call you said that You had another meeting to go to. So I really want to ask this
Yes.
last 3 most important questions of every
Sure.
podcast I ask.
What you got?
And it's mainly personal questions, so it's a bunch of random stuff.
Oh, great.
Your favorite
I was young. I needed the workout. Sorry.
That was funny. Your favorite movie of all time?
Ooh, my favorite movie? Shawshank Redemption. I
Hmm,
love that one. That's
Good
my
one.
favorite for sure. Yeah.
cool. All right. Even you're not being an awesome SEO thought leader, because you're more than an
Yeah.
expert, you're a thought leader. What do you
Appreciate
like
that.
to do?
What do I like to do
Yeah,
when I'm not
like
working?
some hobbies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I like to travel. That's my
travel.
favorite thing. It's all about moments, right? On my desktop, I have a picture of myself in this infinity pool at Oil Nut Bay in the little penthouse suite overlooking Virgin Gorda and watching the sunset and the Milky Way come out. My next kind of experience, I'm all about experiences. My next big
Yeah,
experience is the wife and I at a little cafe in Paris, and I'm working on my next book, and she's looking at the map to see where we're going to go next. So I have all these little experiences that I want to have. I want to drink beer with monks in Belgium, right? At Trappist beer, and just all these weird things that that I've been listening to and exploring over the years. And Route 66 was supposed to be this year, but because it's the millennial, but because the millennial happened, the centennial anniversary of it happened, that they decided to raise all the prices for the hotels and the roads are
yeah.
all, so I said, no, I'll wait a couple more years for that one. But yeah, I think it's all about experiences. So for me, that's my goal. I just turned 50 2 weeks ago, and my
Happy
brain
birthday.
is,
We're the same
you know,
age. Yeah,
yeah, that's right. My brain is on a beach somewhere looking at palm trees, right? And so
yeah.
I'm excited to start traveling more.
Well, Delilah, I'm gonna let you ask the third question. Just anything. Just
Oh,
throw it out.
so impromptu.
Yeah, I like to do that. Put you on the spot.
You guys
Anything.
have been awesome.
Okay,
Thanks for having me.
tell me about your pet. Do you guys have a family pet?
Yeah, I have two. I have one named Oreo, who's a toy poodle. He's around the
Okay.
15, 16 range, so he's up there. We're just at the pet doctor this morning for the poor little guy. And then we have a 1-year-old golden doodle. His name is Rocky, and my daughter calls him Rocky Doodle. And he's just
Oh,
this
nice.
adorable little teddy bear that loves to lay on his back and have his tongue flying out of his face and looking like he's in paradise all day.
I see
Very
golden
excited.
doodles.
Yeah.
They're
What's that?
very, like they have very like, they're almost like human, like, their
Oh yeah.
personalities, aren't they?
It's so much energy too. They're just a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
yeah, the toy poodle would never give you kisses. This dog will slurp you to death. We call it a car wash. I'm like, oh look, I'm getting a car wash. So yeah, he's great.
Okay,
Well,
awesome.
cool. So let's wrap it up. Where can people find you, Steve?
I'm SEO Steve still. I think it's how
Yeah.
people remember me. So anywhere except LinkedIn, where my handle's SEO expert. I don't know how I got that. I'm just SEO Steve across the board. So feel free if you want to have us troubleshoot a page, or you've got a really interesting dilemma you're working through on the SEO front and you want a second set of eyes on it. We love to help, and just be there for the community, for the industry. And if it resolves to us working together at some point in the future, great. But that's not why we're in it. We're in it because we love the industry and we love challenges. So bring it.
By the way, I call Steve the SEO expert of SEO experts. I'm an SEO expert, and whenever I have a question, I have doubt, I'm on his Slack channel. I'm like, hey, am I right? Am I wrong? Or somewhere in between. So that's
I'm just glad I get to be part of your journey, because it's been amazing watching you grow in the industry, Alan, and watching you get up in front of people. I remember how
oh my
nervous you were,
God,
and you nailed it. You did such a great job, and just who you've become as a
I
as a
know.
leader. I'm just so proud of you, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I really appreciate you, your friendship, your mentorship, and thank you for your time to be on a call today. Thank you to you, Delilah. We should have this again. I know there's a lot more we can talk about, but we're all busy. So we hope we can have you on again in the near future, Steve.
Anytime, my friend.
All right,
Thank
everyone
Nice
you.
to meet you, Delilah.
adieu, Steve.
Cheers, Steve. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good one. Take care.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.